What's up, everybody? Bike Builder Bear in the house, just checking in with my 2,500 mile plus review on my 2021 Boom Vader. In this video, I'm going to go over the immediate changes that I made that I recommend for everybody to change. I'm going to go over the performance changes that I have made, and then I'm even going to go over a list of future changes that I am going to make. Again, this video pertains to the Boom Vader 125. Very similar to other models out there. So let's go ahead and take a look at this list of what I've done to my bike to get it where I'm at, to where, I'm getting, 68 to 72 miles an hour. So let's go over it. Okay, and I'm trying some new lighting things, so if things look different, I apologize to the people that have been following me. And this video, unlike many of my videos now, I'm going to post this one on YouTube, but please, all the people out there watching, all my subscribers on YouTube, please check me out on Rumble, subscribe on Rumble, give me the thumbs up, all that stuff. Same thing for YouTube, please comment, subscribe, like, share, please. But anyways, let's get into the list, and I've got a list here. I actually took my time to make a list for you guys of immediate changes, and immediately right off the bat, my recommendation, and you'll see this out there, is change all of the fluids. Change the oil, change the fork oil, change the brake fluid. All of that stuff is substandard fluids and will give you problems down the road. Next is the motor mount bolts. You will snap your motor mount bolts, and that needs to be changed right away. Everybody seems to have their own way of what they do. My recommendation is get torque spec M8 bolts that can be torqued up to 50 pounds plus, because just like the Honda and many other motors, they're gonna ask you to torque that down. In a book, the spec is going to be 45 foot-pounds to each bolt. So that, immediate change those, the mounting hardware bolts. Then the third motor mount, whether you're going to stunt or just ride this thing like an old grandma, if you don't have the ability, find someone that can help you weld on a third motor mount. I do not recommend the bolt-on aluminum ones. It's all up to you. You can do it, and they work okay. But if you want longevity and the best quality and to spend as little money as possible, get it welded. Because unless you're going to someone that is trying to make money off you and rip you off, not necessarily rip you off, but they're just insisting that you're going to pay top dollar for their work, which it's simple work. You're going to spend less money and have less aggravation than buying the cheap aluminum bolt-on and doing some weird drilling on a plate and then putting all that on. So, right there, third motor mount. And then on my bike, because I'm a mechanic and I have OCD and ADD and I'm a nerd and a tardo, I stripped my whole bike down. I took everything off, motor out, and I stripped it down to the frame, and I welded the frame on the opposite sides of areas that had welding. Like, there'd be the motor frame plate, and there would be welding on one side, on the outside that you can see, but if you looked on the inside, there was no welding. It was just sitting there. So all the plates and everything, even on the Honda, are only welded on one side. So I went back and I made little gussets and I retrofitted my whole frame. This whole frame is stronger than a stock frame. It's probably also between 10 and 15 pounds heavier than a regular frame. But I did that because I'm a big boy, I'm a heavy boy, and I plan on having this bike in this configuration until the day I die. Unless I crash it or something happens and it goes away, I want this bike to last, so I retrofitted my frame. Then the next thing is organizing your harnesses. Unfortunately, children, you know, early teens are putting these bikes together in Thailand in a factory, in the same factory that the Hondas are made. It's just two different pools of parts that you're getting. Are you getting the Honda certified engines and electrical harnesses and the hardware, nuts and bolts, or are you getting the Chinese knockoffs? Basically, other than that, a lot of this bike is all the same. It's welded by the same machine. The metal, the tubing is shot out by the same machine that makes the Honda. So don't let people fool you. Yeah, definitely organize your harnesses, because I've seen on the groups, and even the way mine was all set together, it's just kind of thrown in there and woven through the frame. I was able to clean everything up to where it makes sense, it looks ergonomic, everything's easy to get to, there's no spaghetti. I even organized the way my wires, my clutch wire, everything, to where when you pull the plastics off, it doesn't look like a mess. It's easy to understand, it's good, it's easy to see where something is broken or faulty or unplugged. And then even some of the small plugs that you can tell will just pop off and open because they're just a low quality of plastic that they used for the plugs. Take a zip tie and go through the wires on both sides and zip tie that bad boy together. Use dielectric gel. Dielectric gel will save you a lot of headaches. Battery. The battery that comes on this bike is a piece of crap. It will die on you within the first month or so. If not, you are lucky and you should be buying lottery tickets. Get yourself a battery. I would say a no maintenance OMG or whatever. They have new lithium batteries. They're super light. I have one in my Harley. I've had the one in this Harley for like 3 years now. And one time I let my bike sit for 8 months. Started right up. Right now my bike has been sitting for maybe 3 months. I got maybe a couple more weeks. I'm waiting for some throttle cable parts, and I need to put my bearings in and get my tires mounted. But I guarantee you, as soon as I go to start this thing up, wow, right away, because it's got an awesome Pirate battery. No maintenance Pirate battery. Next thing is levers. I recommend that you change the levers, the clutch lever hardware on these bikes, and the handlebars. Just change that stuff. All of that stuff is of the lowest quality that they could provide you. That's just safe enough or good enough to pass the safety standards to be imported into America, which isn't that great. It's just good enough. Get some decent handlebars. Get some get some Pro Taper handlebars. Get a new front reservoir. Don't get the big one with the big cup up off the top, the detached reservoir. Get the one where it's all built in. I don't recommend that one because it missed stuff all over the side of the bike. I'm going to be changing mine. But definitely, also change your speedo. And you could tell right away if your speedo's off. Go to one of those radars that's on the side of the street by a school or something and ride your bike and see, and it'll blow your mind most of the time about how off your speedo is. Your speedo is way incorrect. You know, there's guys that are thinking they're doing 80 miles an hour and they're barely cracking 60. You know, and I'm not joking. It's a serious thing. Change your speedo, because not only is it giving you bullshit and speeds, tricking you, making you think you're going faster, and then a whole list of problems from that, and then you're not tracking your miles correctly. So you'll be thinking, oh yeah, I'm at 5,000 miles. No, you're not. So that's another thing that I recommend to change right away is your speedo. I got a tiny little GPS speedo that fucking awesome. I love it. It looks good to me. It fits the needs that I need. I don't need a gas gauge. I don't need to see that my bike is in neutral. I just need the simplistics. That's what I like. I like simplicity. I don't need all this stuff to look at, so I look up and then end up in a fucking car. Anyways, crash protection. I recommend immediately getting crash protection, sliders, front wheel, back wheel, midsection, and then good handlebars. If you got good handlebars and some slide protection, if you do go down, it will minimize the damage to this bike and you'll be able to get back on the road. Especially the midsection sliders. Get some midsection sliders. If you don't know how to tap and drill, get a friend that knows how to tap and drill and tap out the lower bolts and get some sliders with some bigger hardware in there that could take an impact. Because if you go down, even if you lay the bike down with these cast aluminum side plates that hold your pegs, they'll fucking snap. They'll snap. They're just strong enough to hold a person. They are not strong enough for any kind of impact. But I put sliders on right away, and I've downed this bike 3 or 4 times practicing wheelies, no damage, because I got good handlebars, good sliders. Then your chain and gears. Immediately change the chain. The chain that comes on this bike, on these bikes, is just the quality for machining. It's not even a road safe motorcycle chain. It has no O-rings, no slips. It is literally a manufacturing conveyor belt chain. So get rid of the chain that comes on this. And then also I recommend immediately upgrading to a 17-tooth sprocket. It will bring up your first gear speed, which I'm not promoting it because I want you to get a top end. I promote the 16-tooth because with the stock 14 and 15-tooth gear that it comes, first gear is very jumpy and jerky, and if you're inexperienced, that can cause some whiskey throttle problems and you'll end up on the ground. So that's my recommendations for immediate changes to stay safe.
Alright, check it out, look. Hey.
So now we're going to go to the performance changes that I made to this. And all of these changes I recommend only to do if you are mechanically savvy, if you're confident in your mechanic skills, you know. If not, try to get a friend, someone that knows some of this stuff before you just jump in head first. There's a couple of these that you can do without having an issue, and some that you got to have tools and experience. And I'll start off with the most prominent performance change I made, which was the Z40 cam and timing gear. When I got that, I bought the cam, and literally the day I knew that it was coming, I took off the head and I ported the valves, the intake and outtake. I ported them both. I polished the exhaust. You leave the intake one rough for better atomization. And then you make sure that you change the springs that come with the cam kit, because if you don't change both springs on each valve, you're not going to get the performance, and you're actually going to get cam float, where because of the increased dip and lift of the cam, the spring doesn't have enough tension to pull it back along with the cam, so it actually ends up bouncing off the cam. So do not change the cam without changing the gears. And I have an older video of how to change those springs if you don't have a valve tensioning tool. It's not that hard. You can do it with a tiny cat's paw that's been modified. You trim out the center and the sides to where it'll fit in the, you got to check out my video. But anyways, getting on a rant. Yeah, and then reseating the valves with a better angle helps a lot, to where it blasts out the air into the head better. The coil and wire, that is a big thing. A lot of people don't think that it's a big issue. The coil and wire, they do a lot of improvements and leave the stock coil and wire. I immediately recommend getting a better coil and wire. I have another video on that. On this bike, I'm running a stock, or not a stock, an OEM wire from regular car, I think a Chevy 350, the center wire, the not the distributor wire, but the coil wire, the coil into the distributor wire. So it has the long jacket to slide over your spark plug. Just that wire change alone, and you can take a high performance coil and unscrew the plastic copper core wire, throw that junk away, and you can carefully trim the OEM car cable and screw it right into there, put a little glue and some heat shrink on there, and you've got a fabulous wire. And it's a noticeable torque performance right away, the coil wire. Also, the exhaust. These bikes come with a tiny little hummingbird exhaust. You don't need to go too much bigger. The catalytic converter is really the problem. I have got basically like a straight pipe that comes off the head, runs down the bottom of the bike, up the back end by the shock and out. I like that nice tucked design. I am in the future going to be making a longer head pipe with an expansion, and that gives you a lot of performance. You want open flow, but you also want back pressure. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be mimicking the Honda loop pipe, the pipe that comes off and loops and then comes back around and up. I'm going to be mimicking that, and then I'm going to put a small expansion chamber on the chase back and up to my canister. I want to try to get a little more mid-range torque for the takeoff and the punch in second and third gear. So that'll be in the future. Another big change is the CDI. Now they are making 4-pin adjustable CDIs for this. That's a game changer. Like, totally opens up your top end. Again, between the CDI and the wire, your torque just is immediately noticeable by throttle response. And then when you have the CDI, you're able to get more range of your motor, so you're able to feel more range of what your carburetor's doing, and you'll be able to adjust your carburetor better for better speeds and stuff. Then also intake and carb. I've bounced back and forth from 22 millimeter to 26 millimeter. I have found that a properly tuned 22 millimeter feels more reliable, and it's hard to explain the way that I feel, but with the 22 millimeter, adjusted right, it's got lots of punch at the first, second, third gear takes off. It kind of lacks in fourth gear in the top end, but it never fails. It's just solid, strong, and it feels like almost what a stock carburetor should feel like. No major performance. It just does what it's supposed to do. I'm back on the 26 millimeter because I was messing with the 3-jet carburetors, which I think that there's a application for them, but I was getting frustrated with trying to get that tunability. Plus I was still working with my CDI in my head, everything. Now that stuff is locked in. I'm just back to the 2-jet Nibby carburetor. I'm trying to find the range of optimal performance now that my electronics are top grade, my carburation is top grade, and then even my intake. I turned my intake around. That is a big performance thing. I thought like a Harley and like bigger bikes that maybe that air ram idea would work good. On these small bikes, it's horrible. The turbulent air pushing into your foam cone or even your paper filter, whatever you got, your filter system, if you're having the forced air, the turbulent air, it actually reduces your performance. It messes with your jetting as you get up to those higher speeds. So, and I have videos and stuff out there about making an intake, with a base plate, a curved tube, and then coming back the other way. So I definitely recommend doing that. That was a game changer, and just more performance. Then oil cooler. The cooler your engine runs, the better performance you're going to get no matter what all the way around. But an oil cooler isn't going to be one of those things where you put the oil cooler and you get more performance. No. You put the oil cooler in so that your performance changes have more longevity, more reliability, and more consistent running. Because if your temperatures surge and stuff, it does things to the motor, does things to the carburation tuning that will affect the way it rides and what it does when you pull that throttle. So having an oil cooler is definitely a performance upgrade, but it's not necessary. But I recommend it. Then break-in cycles. That's another thing about performance. If you want your bike to perform well, do break-in cycles. Drive it for 100 miles, okay, and then let it cool down for several times. I would say between 300 and 500 miles you should be riding with. You shouldn't be doing, I don't think you should do short runs. I don't think you should do anything under 100 miles. You should plan your rides, do a 100-mile ride, come back and let it cool down. Don't touch it for a day. Take it for a 100-mile ride, come back, don't touch it for a day. Take a 100-mile ride, bring it back, change the oil while it's still warm, okay? Then do that process again with another 200 to 300 miles. Break in that motor. Make sure that that cylinder gets polished by the rings softly. Don't max it out. Don't keep it at a low speed. Try to keep it around third gear, mid-range. And then downshift to where it almost stalls a bunch of times. And then upshift to where you get maybe 5,000, 6,000 RPMs. Don't ever take it to the red line, to the top for that first 500 miles. And that will make a huge difference in the break-in of the cylinder walls, the break-in of the rings, and the overall performance in the life of the bike, period. So now I'm going to tell you what my future changes are for this bike. My future changes for this bike is going to be hydro dipping. I'm going to hydro dip all of the white and possibly the black. I'm going to do a fake carbon fiber on the black, and then I want to do either camo or some kind of really nice design on the white. Those are my plans. Then forks. I plan on changing out my forks, even though I already modified my forks and put really good fork oil in them. You see the red set on my buddy's 190 right there. They ride really good. And I'm a big boy, so I need more suspension capability and more adjustability. So in the future, I am going to be getting forks. And then also, I'm at 2,500 miles, and I am just now considering getting grom bearings and axles. And not because I need them, not because there's any problem. It's just I'm at about 2,500 miles, and if I have the extra money to do it, why not get the premium stuff, since I've done a whole bunch of other stuff that I don't have to worry about on the bike. Again, that looped exhaust. That's another big one on my thing, is I'm going to be making a looped exhaust that has a small expansion chamber, and more aimed at getting more torque. I want some more torque in the mid-end. And then also, I'm going to be changing out all the controls. The control switches on these bikes are just base, cheap grade. They're not horrible. They don't fall apart, but they're not great. My buddy on his bike, he's got a really nice set that feel nice and tough. And then they even have LED lights that look cool. So at night they pop and you can see all your buttons and everything. I'm going to get a set that glow blue. He has red. And definitely going to be doing that. Then that's the last on the list. Is I am going to put a gel coat, some upholstery material over my seating point on my seat, and I am going to skin my seat. I know how to do upholstery. I did my own Harley Davidson seat to kind of mimic a Saddleman. I have no problem doing upholstery, so I'm going to eventually reskin that seat because the material, you can tell that it's cheap. It's eventually going to wear out and give me problems. I don't want exposed foam, and I want a little more cushion. I'm not going to change the shape of the seat. I'm just going to add gel. So I'm going to cat comb some of the foam off in the same shape, and then I'm going to put gel, and then I'm going to cover it, and it'll be a little more padded in the same shape. I don't have a problem with the shape. This is where I lost my train of thought and totally forgot that I was going to mention that I have an extra 125 motor that I'm going to build complete in and out. What it is. F. Oh well. Those are my future plans. That's what I'm going to be doing. And other than that, I'm at 2,500 miles and I'm absolutely happy with the bike. I have no problems because I've always been in a progression mode. I haven't had any failures and fallbacks, thank God. And for anybody out there that's wondering how to get your bike to shift better and clutch action, learn how to open up the right side case and adjust your clutch, which is basically there's a nut and a screw, and you loosen the nut, you take a screwdriver, you loosen the screw, and then you put it in just where it touches, where you feel it touch, then you lock down the nut. You know, there's other ways to adjust your clutch too, but I'm not getting into that. Riding the bike is the only thing that'll make it shift better, smoother, and feel better going down the road, is putting that seat time and those hours into it. I'm getting to 2,500 miles, or I'm past 2,500 miles now, and it's just barely going into neutral, shifting from first up to neutral. For the longest time, I've had to go from second, when I'm coming to a stop, second down to neutral, and it will not go up, but now it's starting to pop back up into neutral. You have to polish the gears by run time. That's the only thing you can do. It's going to be tough. You could fidget with your clutch, you could do all this stuff, but until you put the miles on, you're going to be Michael Jackson, and you're going to be, where's that neutral? Where's that neutral? So that's my 2,500 mile breakdown of what I've done, what I'm gonna do. Please like, please subscribe. God bless. Have a good day. Please share. Peace.